Mixan.
Mixan.
Like the president with an M, though.
Mixan trying to finish the job. Body shot, and that'll do it. Chris Mixan with the body shots, the combinations, and a beautiful display of striking for a second-round finish. My goodness, only 23 years old.
Okay. Talk to me about how you got your nickname.
On my mom's side, my family is Ukrainian, and a very, very big inspiration for me is the Ukrainian Cossacks. They're, semi-nomadic, free-spirited, great fighters throughout all of history. So I just really tried to channel that into my fighting. So I kind of gave it to myself. I had a few unfortunate ones before that were given to me, and I was like, no.
Please tell me about them.
Okay, so we went through. I'd say the only one I got announced in the cage was, I think, my third or fourth amateur MMA fight, and it was Chris Mighty Mixan. And but I felt it sounded so corny, and I just couldn't imagine it. So me and my brother were sitting there, and I was like, I should just ride with Cossack, because we always, that's how we grew up. So I was like, nah, I'm riding with Cossack, and kind of rolls off the tongue good. Chris the Cossack Mixan.
It does. Chris, when you were a kid, did you ever take your socks, pull them over your pants, and pretend you were a Cossack growing up?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Over the jeans even.
Yes.
Yeah, naturally.
I wanted to ask you, where were you born?
I was actually born on Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Really?
Yep, military base. Yeah, because my dad was Army, and my mom was born and raised in Ukraine, and they actually met abroad in Greece. She immigrated because she went back and forth, but she was in Greece for a time working as a nanny. Meanwhile, my father was in the U.S. Army, and they met there, typical Army fashion, get married overseas, and then she came here, and 3 years later, I was born.
Coming from immigrant parents, what is the work ethic that you feel you learned from them?
So mainly, my dad, he left home with no support. He just said, I'm going to go to college, went to Arkansas Tech, got a finance degree because it was the shortest line for signups, and then pretty much tooth and nail went through the Army. And he progressed in the Army all the way up to colonel, and he did it his way. Like, there's a pipeline that they try to send you up if you're a good officer and stuff, but he didn't subscribe to any of that. He wanted to do things his way. He took a bunch of orders that were considered career suicide. He went to the Sinai Desert for years, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Greece, where he met my mom. But he was really a rolling stone. And the thing I gather from him is he did everything his way through sheer determination and will. Meanwhile, on my mother's side, my mother being born in Ukraine, in Kharkiv, so she grew up, the typical, Soviet lifestyle at that point. But she is a very similar case where they have all these rules and regulations, especially, growing up in the 70s and the 80s, where you can't do certain things and you can't go certain places. So she wasn't even allowed to go to Greece, but she found a way that she could sell Western clothes from Greece. She would take them with her and go back to Ukraine, and she would sell those clothes and make money. Mm-hmm. And so she was like the most outside of the box, if there's a will, there's a way kind of person. And then when she got to America, she spoke English already, and she had a daughter as well, who didn't speak very much English at all. Put her through school, went to school herself, became a real estate agent, made a career for herself. Just sheer, once again, just drive, determination, and once again, just not necessarily, there's a pipeline to get things done and have a good life, and you go to school, you get a good job.
Sure.
But they did it their way, and that, I think, imprinted the most on me. So that's how I kind of fell into fighting. I was like, no, this is what I'm going to do.
So watching your parents basically fight against norms and traditions, you had no choice but to, in some way in your own life, follow suit.
Yeah, and but also there was no pressure on me to do things a certain way. They kind of took a very hands-off approach to parenting, which I thought was a great decision. And if I ever have kids, whenever I have kids, I'm going to do the same thing, because it allowed me to make my own mistakes. And I think that's imperative for especially someone growing up, is to understand when they've made a mistake and done something wrong and how to correct it on their own. And whether parents find out or not, Of course, you're reprimanded if you find out, but otherwise, we had the freedom to go out and do what we wanted to do, for better or worse, you know. And it was like, and of course there are boundaries and whatnot, but I think just having them around, and even though it was a split household, it was honestly, I think, the best possible way that it could have happened.
Yeah, I think it's awesome anytime someone has good parents.
Yeah.
It feels like we have a responsibility
Yeah.
to pass that good care on to someone else.
Absolutely.
So even though you're not a dad yet, it
Mm.
sounds like you definitely have the stones and the foundation to make a great parent. So I'm happy for you.
I appreciate it.
You went to college.
I did.
And talk to me about a degree in history.
Yeah, so I started off going to college at a state college, Daytona State College, just because it was cheap, it was convenient, and this was the point where I would just start taking fighting very seriously, fresh out of high school, and I was really 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. I was a mediocre student. I was just non-committal. Like if anything upset what I was currently like focused on, which at that time was just fighting, I would pay no mind to it, you know, and as a result, my grades were not phenomenal. But I promised my mom, I said, I'm gonna graduate college. So, and that was kind of, I feel like it was a cop-out, because I wasn't going full, I was going part-time, just hanging out, kind of doing what I want to do, still technically getting it done, but not really committing. But then my mom got sick, and I kind of, you know, I feel like something like that happening really makes someone have to be very introspective. And I kind of realized what I was doing.
How old were you when this was going on?
This was, 2021. So I think 2019 is when she got sick. And I think that just kind of made me sit back and go, wow, like I'm really taking the coward's way out. You know, I'm not committal. I'm working part-time jobs and part-time school. You know, even fighting. Like the thing about fighting was I loved it, or I love it still to this day. But it was like it was an outlet for me and whatnot. But when she got sick, I was like, no, I need to. These are things that I'm good at, and these are commitments that I made, and I need to see these through. So I got my associate's degree, I think summer of 2020, and then I transferred to University of Central Florida, and I went full-time, finished my 2 years there, got my degree in history, and it was like from that point on, my career as a student flipped. Like I went from this guy who was like, you know, not good attendance, whatever, just obviously just going through the motions. And then when I transferred to University of Central Florida, my mother was still alive, and I was still in her house and everything, and I was just kind of trying to make a point like, hey, like, I'll be okay. Wow. You know, like I could do this. So yeah, I finished in 2022. I got my degree a bachelor's degree in history.
That's very impressive. And talk to me about your grandfather. What was his name?
Which one?
Yuri?
Yuli.
Yuli.
My grandpa Yuli.
And what is it about his personality that affected you?
Okay, so the funny part about my grandpa Yuli, my mom's dad, was for a long time, even when we would see him a lot when I was growing up, because obviously I was growing up mostly in Florida, Georgia, Colorado, Pennsylvania, but mostly in Florida. When we were able to get him in country, the thing about it was there was a language barrier, because he didn't speak any English. He only speaks Russian, Ukrainian. That's it. And
how's your Ukrainian?
So at the time, I didn't speak anything. Like it was just English, and even that was questionable.
Yes,
but but then once again, when my mom got sick, I kind of had a realization where I was like, there's this whole like culture of my blood, that is like outside of some traditions and like some food and stuff like that is completely lost to me. So it was actually at that point where I made a commitment to learn to speak Russian, because that's his primary language. So now I speak Russian mediocrely, enough to have simple conversations with him. And actually this past summer we actually had a retreat that my sister organized, where we all went to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico, and because we couldn't get him to the United States, so we met him offshore in Mexico. And it was the first time that me and him were actually able to have conversations without someone having to translate, which I think was just, it was big for me and it was big for him too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But as far as his personality, he's a brilliant engineer. Probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. Will school you up in chess, and no matter how long you've been playing, he'll do you in. Does engine swaps in
Sure.
in Ukraine by himself. He has
Does
like
it
this.
get any more stereotypical? A Ukrainian that plays chess, is an engineer, and works on cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, ice fishes too. Yeah. So yeah, but he engine swapped like a Toyota engine into some like Volkswagen van, like just ingenuity and stuff. So I wouldn't say a whole lot of his actual personality, but I definitely derive a lot of inspiration from him.
Okay.
Yep.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Frequently.
Yeah?
Frequently, yeah. Probably a little bit less than Alexander the Great, but a whole lot. Yeah, I have a map of Alexander the Great's empire on my wall. It's the only piece of decoration that I have in my apartment that I own personally. So a lot.
What is the allure of living off the grid?
Living off the grid, freedom. Yeah, freedom. Just not being attached to anything. You could, and I feel like it's life at its purest form.
What was the first fight you got into, and what was the outcome?
I'm not sure I could count any fights with my brother on this growing
too
up,
many to
because
count.
yeah, and all those are L's, so I don't even want to talk
So
about
I'm going
them.
to guess he's an older brother.
Older brother, yes.
Do you think it is a prerequisite for a fighter to have older brothers?
It definitely doesn't hurt. Yeah, but I think the first fight I ever got into that was like a fight was at my bus stop in 3rd grade. No, 2nd grade I choked out a kid on a bus. Yeah, because he was sitting next to my girlfriend at the time.
Damn.
Yeah.
What do you like about fighters like Michael Bisping and Forrest Griffin?
Michael Bisping and Forrest Griffin. I would say they're the two most unathletic, or I'd say least athletically gifted people to ever become UFC champions. Blue collar, hard work, grit, one eye. Still got it done. So, grit.
Yeah. What do you think your personality traits are?
Oof. I think I'm slightly neurotic.
Yeah.
I overthink a lot, and that leads me to getting frustrated. I work hard. I know that. And mostly quiet.
Yeah. When you're kind of finished with fighting, what do you see yourself doing?
Either living on a beach or living on a mountain.
That's beautiful. What do you like about hiking?
Fresh air, sunlight, and it's a good alternative to a beach.
Talk to me about the importance of a mullet.
The ambiguity of it. You don't know if you really want to rock it. You don't know if it's really working for you.
Yeah. What are some of your hobbies that if people found out that you do, they'd be surprised to know?
I'm not sure I have any. Yeah.
What piece of advice do you wish someone had given you 5 years ago that you'd like to pass on to new and upcoming fighters?
Trust yourself more.
Yeah. Talk to me about your tattoos and how many more you want to get.
Yeah, so I have a Norse sleeve on my right arm. I don't think it's well done. It's good artistry, but if I could go back, I wouldn't do any of it.
Really?
Yep.
How come?
I think I'd look better without it.
Do you think that nowadays almost you'd stand out more by not having tattoos because everyone
Yeah,
has one?
I agree to that.
Interesting.
Yep. But I don't. I say that, but I think it's very indicative of where I was at the time. Like I have a North sleeve here, and I have some Japanese. I have a Japanese leg sleeve, and then I have my forearm. I have Strahaniet, no fear, which is probably the one that means the most to me.
Chris, what's next for you, and where are we going to see you fight again?
A lot of it's up in the air right now, but soon and somewhere.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite memory inside of a fight that you thought to yourself, I pulled that off exactly the way I wanted to.
I think my first title defense as an amateur for combat night, way back in the 2018, 2019. A guy came out really fast at me, hurt me. First time I ever got rocked like to the head in my entire career, even in training.
No way.
I recovered, and then and I hit him with an uppercut that sent him somewhere else. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Oof, that's a deep one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be remembered as a guy who never wasted an opportunity.
What do you think when you look back on your past, or times that you go, gosh, I wish I had jumped on that, I wish I had said yes to that, I wish I wasn't afraid, I wish I had gone in and gave it a try?
I don't think there is one.
Yeah?
No, I think when push came to shove and when opportunities came up, even how blind as I was, I think I always took that step. Yep.
And the last question I always like to ask my interviewers is, what's the last random act of kindness that you experienced?
Oof, random act of kindness. Oh, I was at a restaurant called Golden Saigon around here, where they gave me and my girlfriend a appetizer for free.
You're not going to believe this, but this is about the third or fourth time it's been food related that I asked about random acts of kindness.
Hey, you eat every day.
That's right. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on.